Not for 1 second would we think that emotions are driven by thoughts. And that is really true. When we start to go, and then how do you work that out? How do you prove that anger is just a bunch of thoughts? The body is involved. The body is shaking. The words are pouring out the mouth. Your heart is beating. The blood is racing. The tears are coming out of your head, out of your eyes, But that's physical. But what's driving that emotion, what's driving that physicality, is underneath, deep in our bones, which we've never paid attention to, is the thoughts. And so what is anger saying? Well, if you sort of be very professional about it, and you record somebody who's angry. What they're going to be saying is, when their eyes are wide and tears are coming out, how dare you do that to me? I did not do that. I do not deserve it. That's what anger says, isn't it? So we should analyze those thoughts. And this is Buddha's skill. I mean, when you look at the model of the mind in Buddhism, he talks about we've got thousands of neurotic states of mind. We've got thousands of good ones as well, and we're trying to make them the boss. So what we have to look at is the three main ones. He talks about them as the three poisons, which sounds so cute to us. You don't go to a therapist and say, oh, I've got the three poisons. I'll tell you to shut up and go home, The three toxic emotions, and what are they? This is Buddha's view, not Freud's. There's ego grasping, which is this primordial, the deeply instinctive, unbelievably beyond able to see, it's so deep. Misconception, a thought, deep in our bones, subtle, about the very nature of myself, a wrong view about I. On the basis of this, there's then this massive attachment to get what that fantasy I wants. And then when attachment doesn't get what it wants, then you have anger. These are the three, and there's a hierarchical relationship between them. This is not Western psychology, I promise. This is Buddha's. It's so precise. So effectively in daily life, the main one is attachment. So what drives, this is not discussing our positive ones. Love is there, and kindness, and compassion, and goodness, and intelligence. They're all there, but they're dragged down by this other rubbish. But because in our culture we give equal status to all this stuff, we think a normal person has anxiety, a normal person has a bit of love, a bit of compassion, a bit of jealousy. It's true, but we just take it as a given, and we have no techniques to work them out, and we have no techniques to lessen the neurotic ones and grow the good ones. We just don't talk like that. So this anger, how dare you do that to me? Let's analyze it. So what's it come from? It's the response when the one underneath it, called attachment, doesn't get what it wants. So what is attachment saying? This is even harder to hear because it's there all the time. It's an assumption. So attachment is saying, I only deserve the good things. It's deep in our bones. And we believe that. You think about it. So when your boyfriend is kind to you, you don't say, oh, wow, that's amazing. I deserve you being nice to me. We take it as a given that I deserve it, and we greedily take it, and then we expect him to do it again. We expect him to be nice to me again. So when he's not nice to me, poor attachment has a heart attack. Attachment has a panic attack. Oh my God, look what's happened. He just did what I didn't want. So how dare you do that to me? I don't deserve it. That assumes underneath it attachment, which is thinking all the time. More subtly, I do deserve only the good things. And what does that mean? Well, that means what I think, what I want, in other words. So attachment is this junkie in us that only wants the nice things. And that means what I think are the nice things. So the millisecond I get the nice things, I just accept them. I don't question. I just assume I deserve it, and I assume it's the right thing, and I greedily take it, and then I want it again, and I expect it again. And when I'm driving in the road, I expect the cars all to be nice to me. And when I'm in the shop, I expect everybody to be kind to me. And everywhere I go, attachment is expecting and craving the nice things. We understand this. We don't analyze it like this. We just call that normal. Well, Buddha's questioning it. He says, no, it's normal. Yep, you all got it. But honey, I'm sorry, it's the cause of your suffering. Because guaranteed, you won't always get what attachment wants. So when you look at your life 1,000 times a day, look at your life 1,000 times a day, attachment won't get what it wants. You drop the cup when you're washing the dishes. The car jumps in front of you. Your husband doesn't do what you want when you want it. The noise is too loud. You get a pain in your knee. Think about these baby, seemingly insignificant events. We never pay attention to them. But what happens every time they come? Attachment doesn't get what it wants, so you get annoyed. Well, annoyed is a polite word for mild anger. How dare that happen to me? That should not have happened. That should not have happened. Or listen to that loud noise. I don't want that. So we're going between attachment and aversion 1,000 times a day. Now, it's only when the aversion becomes volatile, then that's called anger. That's only then that we notice. We don't notice when attachment gets what it wants because we assume it's normal and we just greedily want more. We expect more. We just don't question it. We never question that assumption. It's even when the small things happen that I don't want, we just accept it. You drop the cup, you get annoyed. The wrong sound, you get annoyed. And all these things build up. We don't think it's a problem. Again, you don't go to your therapist when you get annoyed. She'll laugh at you. You go to your therapist when you want to get very annoyed, but it's anger. You want to kill yourself or your boyfriend. It's too late. It's like going to the mechanic when the wheels are already off. It's too late. So this is the point. Buddha's view of the mind is so nuanced. It's so precise. It's so subtle. And I really mean this. We have to learn to investigate more deeply and more deeply and more deeply to begin to listen to these misconceptions. We have to listen to these misconceptions and identify them. But the hard part is to see them as misconceptions, because that seems like cruel. Of course I want to be happy. Of course I want the cake when I want it. Of course I want only the nice things. We say, of course, meaning it's natural, meaning you don't question it. But that's what Buddha's getting us to do. So this means we have to then learn to understand more the Buddha's view of the mind and how these unhappy states of mind function. That's Buddha's expertise, this incredible, sophisticated understanding of the actual cognitive process itself, the actual way the mind works, the thoughts work, you know? That's what's fascinating. I mean, we would not have thought this. And this has been around literally, really, 3,000 years. It's all in the literature. And it's only really now, with this holiness in the world, isn't it, that people are starting to realize all this amazing knowledge has been around for so long. For we arrogant modern people who think we created everything, you know. So we have the best ideal, if we say we're going to be Buddhist, we like to be Buddhist, that's our decision, no one's forcing us, then we need to learn to know the Buddhist view of the mind. Why we need to study it. To study it, because it's very sophisticated. The knowledge is incredible. It's so intellectual. It's so technical in the beginning. When you learn to understand, you learn to study it first. Then you put meat on the bones, and then you learn the key job. The key job of being a Buddhist is learning to distinguish in your mind, as they're happening, which is advanced, between the neuroses and the virtues. So let's give an example what this means. So let's say it's the husband, you know, and you say, I love my husband, and you probably do. So what's love? Let's analyze it. Is it a negative state or is it a positive one? Because there are these two main categories. The positive, valid, useful, appropriate states of mind that are the source of my happiness and the source of my ability to make others happy. Then there are the neurotic, I-based, fear-based, unhappy, distressed states of mind. Don't be guilty. I mean, they're the cause of your pain and the cause of then why you harm others. So obviously, if this is true, if there are some states of mind that I've got that are neurotic and miserable, and there are some states of mind that I've got that are valid and useful, it's sort of obvious, as by the nature of those words, I want the good ones. And it's up to me. But because we think they're all, like I said, we give all equal status to them, we don't think we should distinguish. And then when we do have the negative one, we blame the boyfriend or the weather. We don't notice that I can change it. That's the point. So the job we have to learn to do then, the essential job, is to distinguish between them. So let's use a simple example of two states of mind. Are people giving me messages? Am I supposed to answer or something? Or maybe all these people lining up. I see all you people. How wonderful. I presume you're all there with me. There's Paloma. Thank you, Paloma. There's Martha. Oh, good. Okay, you people. Hello, people. So if you have questions, you better ask me, you guys. We've got like 30 minutes. So please write your little questions down and I'll get them. Okay, so let's look at this too. This is getting down to brass tacks now, okay? Let's say I love my husband. I love Fred, let's say. So let's look what is love? Where does it fit in this model of the mind? Is it under the negative heading or the positive? This is quite precise language. And we don't say this in the West because we think it sounds like judgment. And we get nervous, you know? And we must not be. It's not moralistic. This is technical. Moana, hello, sweetheart. Happy to see you. I wish I could see all your faces, you people. It's like I'm talking to myself. It's so weird. But I have to assume you're all there. So, okay, listen. Love is a virtuous, positive, useful, valid, curiously, a valid state of mind. Attachment is a neurotic, I-based, that separates me from others, is fearful, is anxious, and neurotic, and is not comfortable. So what's the difference? Well, as far as we're concerned, we conflate them. We honestly assume they're the same. So love is a virtuous mind. So if you just had the love separately, that would be a delight. You see your husband or your baby or whoever it is, or your boyfriend or your dog, you delight in their happiness. You see them happy and you want them to be happy. Or, or if you see them suffering, you think, oh my God, this is terrible. I wish they did not suffer. So that's love and compassion. Compassion wants them to be happy. Love wants them to be happy. Compassion doesn't want them to suffer. That's these two states of mind. So the love then comes along with attachment. Think about it. So attachment, what's that? That's under the negative heading. It's based on the neurotic I. It's a misconception. It over-exaggerates. It embellishes. It's needy. It's neurotic. It's controlling. It's hungry. And why are you hungry? Because you feel you're not enough. So it's key energy. The key energy of attachment is dissatisfaction. So these are all working together. They're so intimate. They're so close. They're separate completely. In England and Australia, we say they're like chalk and cheese. Maybe that shows how bad English cheese is. It looks like chalk. You can't tell the difference, but they're completely different. That's the point we have to learn. This is the skill. This is the skill we have to learn. So, attachment, if you only had attachment for your husband and no love, you would eat him for breakfast. I promise. You'd be a vampire. That's why people have nightmarish relationships. When attachment gets what it wants, if we're both being nice to each other, attachment is getting what it wants, so we look like we love each other, but we don't. We're totally using each other. Attachment is a vampire. It uses. It sounds scary, but but the trouble for us is at the moment, or the good thing is, it's tempered. Our attachment is tempered by love, so it doesn't look so severe. But if we had mainly attachment, then you would not have much love and you would chuck your boyfriend out, or you would kill him, or you'd eat him for breakfast. And I'm not being joking. I'm joking, but I'm not. So what's the difference between them? That's the job we have to learn. This is what's so difficult. First of all, why? Is because we only have love for those we're attached to. And usually we're only attached to those we love. So already they come together. So love, in fact, there's a really good way to talk about this, which is in the compassion part of the teachings. One of the very first practices we need to learn to develop in order to develop love and compassion for sentient beings. We first have to develop equanimity. And it's a very specific practice. And what equanimity is this when you've got it, is this heartfelt wish, heartfelt recognition that friends and enemies and strangers, and there's no fourth category, objects of our attachment is a friend, object of our aversion or anger is an enemy, object of indifference is a stranger. There's no fourth category on the planet. These are the three poisons. So equanimity is the heartfelt recognition that friend, enemy, and stranger are equal to each other from one point of view. They want to be happy and don't want to suffer. This sounds so simple, but this is outrageous. So when we start to look at the mistakes and what prevents us from having that, this is attachment. So look at your beloved. Look at your poodle, your baby, your girlfriend, your beloved husband, whoever it is, whoever you say you love. That's a person you're also attached to. And so the attachment energy is this one. Attachment causes you to think about them all the time, want them to be close to you, think they're divine, expect them to make you happy, manipulate them to make you get happy, all this. This is what attachment does. But it's so subtle, it's just in there all the time. We mistake it for love. But attachment is, like I said before, its energy is dissatisfaction. It's like a vampire. It's frantic to get only what I want every second. So when you love that person, this is what typical mothers and their children. I mean, you know yourself if you're the child and your mother is all over you, manipulating you, possessing you, demanding you do what she wants. And if you do what she wants, then she says that you love me. We know this. It's kind of like they joke about it. I saw a recent thing on Saturday Night Live about mothers, not coming home for Christmas. And the way that mothers, this jokey way that mothers manipulate their children. That's attachment. That's not love. That's attachment. And attachment wants only what I want. So, of course, in the beginning, when my boyfriend is so divine and he looks so perfect to me, and we each make each other happy, and we've each got attachment for each other, we're both desperately scratching each other's back, which is what attachment does. It's codependence. It's a great term. So then it looks like we love each other. Now, we do, but we're very intolerant. If he doesn't look at me the right way, the right time, I'll get upset because I think, oh, you don't love me. So love is a delightful state of mind that's very spacious, is not I-based, it's virtuous, it's connected to the other person, it's empathetic. That's love. But attachment poisons it. Attachment is needy, poor me, he doesn't love me, he's not looking at me the right way, he's not doing what I want the right time. It's desperate, it's frantic all the time. And when he doesn't do what I want, that's when I have the panic attack. You don't have a panic attack if you love somebody. A mother who says she loves her child but manipulates them, love doesn't manipulate. Love is not distressing, it's attachment that's distressing. So we kind of know it very well. We see the symptoms of it in our relationships all the time. But this is Buddhist analysis. It's quite a specific analysis. And we have to see the difference. And of course, it's incredibly hard to change them because this is ancient habit. I mean, Lama Yeshe said, I can tell you about attachment for a whole year. You'll never begin to understand it until we start first knowing what it is and then looking deeply inside and doing the work, you know. And because these are so habitual, we know habits die hard. So this is a really intense job, being your own therapist. So again, why should I do it? The first reason, forget about for other people's sake, because it's going to make me happy, you know. I have to see my mind every second. This is so sophisticated. It's so advanced, actually. I mean, to get to see your mind every second is incredible. You really can't do that until you have shamatha, until you have single-pointed concentration. This amazing skill made up by these Indians 3,000 years ago, you know. So the big job is to see the difference between attachment and love, for example. Attachment is I-based, neurotic, needy, distressed, disturbing, delusional. It embellishes, it manipulates, it possesses, it's emotional hunger, it's dissatisfied. We know every one of these words and we recognize those feelings. They're all terms for the function of attachment. It's multifaceted, I tell you. Then you've got the love, which is delight in someone else's happiness. It's spacious, it's connected to the other person, it's not neurotic, it's not deluded, it's not disturbing, it's powerful and virtuous and valid. But we just assume in our world and in our psychology that these go together. Just assume that. Buddha disagrees. He's quite radical. He disagrees. So we should look at it freshly, you know. And he's saying it's possible to lessen the neurosis, to lessen the attachment. So how would you practice this equanimity? You know, let's just, I always think of the example, you got your gorgeous grandchild, and you adore your grandchild. And they're playing with the smelly kid next door. You don't like this kid next door. He's mean, he's nasty, he picks his nose. And you can see the difference. Look at this right now. The incredible attachment for your beautiful grandchild and this aversion, this ugly kid next door, you know. So that's normal. We all have it, but we've got to see the difference. And the point here is with equanimity, it's going to this next step to realize that your attachment over-exaggerates your grandchild's deliciousness, over-exaggerates their value, and your aversion under-exaggerates the value of the person that you don't like. And this is a really powerful point. This is the point that Buddha's pointing out to us all the time. That everything out there, as Lama Zopa puts it, everything, every person, let's say, out there, every person, we say person, out there, appears back to us the way that a person appears to our mind. And this is how they say it in Buddhist psychology. Appears in the aspect of whatever's in my mind. In other words, you've got your attachment glasses on. We say it, your rose-colored spectacles. Let's say you've got your attachment glasses on, so when you see your grandchild, you see them as divine, delicious, so special, so beautiful, all that. But the kid next door, who's got 2 legs and 2 hands and a nose and a mouth, and got ears, wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, they're actually exactly the same. I mean, if I don't know, you think about this, if I don't know either of them, they look the same to me, don't they? I can't tell the difference. There's 2 kids, you know. They're strangers to me. This is a really good point. We all say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That is a profound statement. That's saying exactly what Buddha's saying. That you've got your attachment glasses on, so the person will appear divine to you. And you've got your aversion glasses on, and the kid next door will appear like a creep. This is the point now. I will look at both, and they'll look indifferent to me. I won't know the difference. I can't tell the difference. I won't have a clue. Because why? Because I have neither attachment or aversion for them. Why? Because they haven't touched my life. So what do I have? I've got the indifference glasses on. And how do they look to me? Totally boring. I don't care. So this is proving emptiness. So it's proving Lama Zopa's point, Buddha's point, that the way people appear to us is in the aspect of what's in our mind. It depends on what pair of glasses you've got on. But we totally take this for granted. This idea of friends, enemies, and strangers. Look at the entire universe. You've got those you're attached to, who appear divine. You have those you have aversion for, who appear ugly. And you have 99.999% who appear completely boring. And we never question this. Because why? Because the 3 poisons run everybody in the universe, including the monkeys and the ants and the dogs. This is Buddha's view of the mind, you know. So, I mean, these words are so simple, but they're kind of profound. And he's saying these are artificial projections. We've made up these stories. We make up the label beautiful. We make up the label ugly. We make up the label boring. And then on the basis of those labels, we respond accordingly. So, the stranger has a terrible headache. You kind of try to have compassion, but you don't care. An enemy has a headache, and you'll have to stop yourself from even hoping he gets a bigger headache. And your friend has a headache, and you break your heart. But they're all suffering the same way. There's no difference in their headaches. We kind of know this, but it's too hard to cope with because we're so used to friend, enemy, stranger. It's so simple, but it really is profound, this view, And the Buddha's point is, this is on the compassion wing, that we've got the potential to strip away these misconceptions, to strip away these labels, and to actually get some recognition. This is the starting point, that they actually equal from that point of view. One might be, the kid next door might be a creep. And there's no argument there. That's not the issue here. Your little child might be a saint. I'm not discussing, this is not necessarily argued. This is not necessarily mistaken. But what we're discussing is our interpretation of those things. Your attachment glasses on makes your kid, he appears more important to you. And the aversion glasses on makes him look more ugly than he really is. And you can't see their humanity. You just see your projections. And the stranger, appears boring. I always tell this story. Maybe you've heard it before. And I read my news on my iPad, and I read my New York Times, for example, and one day I saw in the right-hand corner a heading that said, 350 people die in a ferry accident in Tasmania. And of course, Tasmania is Australia, and I'm Australian, born in Australia. I'm American as well, and British actually. Never mind. I saw that, and then I looked at the story. I said, "Oh no!" And I looked, and then I realised the heading said Tanzania, not Tasmania. And I went, "Oh, it's okay." I mean, I didn't really think it's okay, but that's the point. Tanzanians are strangers to me. Tasmanians are my people. So then I caught myself, and of course I read the story and tried to have compassion, because I don't know about Tanzania. I had to check, where is it? What is it? This is how we all are. It's very natural. We've got our people, we've got strange enemies, and we have strangers. Think about this. This is sort of cute, but it's really profound. There's no fourth category. There's 99.999% of strangers to us. And this is the point too, one of the analyses we do when we do this equanimity meditation, to try and get to see how they're equal from the point of view of wanting to be happy and not suffer. You use one example. You use Fred, your boyfriend. At one point, he was a stranger. You might even have seen him go to work. You might have seen him on the bus. And you saw this bloke, Oh, yeah, that Fred, he lives down the road. Yeah, okay, yeah, big deal. You hardly pay attention. Why? Because he's neither harmed or helped you. Then one day you start to get to know each other, and suddenly you put him into the friend category. And now how does he appear to you? You can't stop thinking about him. All day he's divine. Oh, this divine person. Oh my God, it's a divine person. Blah, blah, blah. You go on and on about it. Suddenly he becomes a friend, isn't it? And now you can't stop thinking about him. You have compassion for his headache. You take care of him. You don't question. I mean, he felt exactly the same before he met you. He felt just the same kind of person. He wanted to be happy. He didn't want to suffer. He didn't like headaches. He liked his breakfast a certain way. He was exactly the same before he met you. But you didn't care before. And now suddenly you care. What's the difference? We should be embarrassed, actually, when we see how self-centered this is. But we just call it natural. We just gloss over it. He felt exactly the same before he met you. His headaches were just as bad the day before he met you as they were the day you fell in love with him. His headaches are just the same. So in that sense, the stranger and the friend, they're just the same in their wish to be happy. Their wish not to suffer. It's exactly the same. But we can't get past our labels. We can't get past our viewpoint. And this is the tragedy, that because we're so caught up in these three states of mind, attachment, aversion, and indifference, we believe in the story. So when you've got your attachment glasses on, it's like you don't realize you've got your attachment glasses on. You just think, this is the point, you don't realize your attachment glasses are on. You don't realize that when you look at that person through the lens of your attachment glasses, they look pretty. You don't realize. You think, and this is what Lam Zopa means, that what's in my mind plays no role, that my attachment plays no role. I'm sorry, you've got your attachment glasses on. It plays all the roles. Because you believe that that person is pretty in their bones. You think your eyes, your glasses, your eyes, okay? Your glasses are your mind. just the analogy. You don't think your mind plays any role in this. You just think they are pretty in their bones. This is the view of emptiness. That we believe everything is out there from its own side. We believe the person out there is just as if deliciousness is coursing through their veins along with their blood. We believe they are delicious in themselves. Then you take, and then he cheats on you, and now suddenly your rose-coloured specs have smashed, and now you've got your aversion glasses on. And now how does he appear? He hasn't even gotten any day older hardly. He's got no more grey hairs. He's got no more fat. He looks exactly the same. If you saw a photo of him as he is today, the day he cheated on you, and you have a photo of him from a week ago when he didn't cheat on you, there's not a fraction of difference, is there? You can't tell the difference. There's only a week between them. Think about this. No difference. But look how different he appears to you now. Because one day you've got your angry glasses on because he hasn't done what your attachment wants and you feel offended. And this is normal. We all feel it. But we have to analyze our feelings, analyze these thoughts, analyze logically, and begin to own the thoughts in the mind, which are the ones that cause him to look ugly. The attachment causes him to look delicious. It's actually stupendous, this work, internal work, to unpack and unpack and unpack, ever more subtle, ever more subtle, ever more subtle. This is the job of being a Buddhist. I swear. That's it. Being your own therapist. It's not a joke. This is the job of being a Buddhist. So that you can recognize the lies, the wrong lenses, and you can activate the positive ones. And eventually you get less and less attached, less and less angry, less and less jealous, more and more clear, more and more wise, more and more loving, more and more forgiving, more and more patient. They begin to run the show. Now, who wouldn't want that? Why? Because they're the cause of my happiness. They're the cause of my sanity. They're the cause of my being stable. And they're the cause of my own joy. Happiness is meaning joy. Happiness is not the thing out there. We think it is. Happiness is a state of mind, is a mind that's stable, content, fulfilled, self-respectful, self-confident, kind, and connected. Don't hear these as cliches. These are powerful. These are what we are capable of being. That's minimum way to put it. And how do you become that? By being less attached, less separate, less lonely, less depressed, less angry, less blaming, less guilt. This is the job every day. I don't care you call it Buddhism or Islam. Yes, she says call it Mickey Mouse. I don't care. This is the job. And anybody can understand this. A communist, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a secular person. This is not religion, I promise. This is psychology, and it's intelligent, you know. I wish you people could ask me some questions. Come on. I've got 10 minutes. Maybe we can go a bit over because I was late. Are there any questions, you people? Paloma, are there any questions for me? Stacy, Derek. No questions, you people. Fiona, hello, darling. Fiona, nobody going to ask me questions. Ariane, don't worry about being late. I was 10 minutes late. I didn't know how to do it. Thank you for this teaching. Do you have enough time to lead a short meditation on equanimity to help us practice? Oh, Meryl. Well, we sort of did it by me talking about it, didn't I? That's a very good point, 5 minutes ago. Sweetheart, if we had more time, all you people are saying something. This is wonderful. You're right, yeah, there's Paloma. Write your questions. We'll have time at the end to answer them. No questions. No questions. Okay, Helen says, what about that feeling of connection with some people who may be our partner, but may be an acquaintance, and attachment is not so important as knowing that there are people out there who you understand in a special way? That's fine, Helen. This is good. See, this is the point. Because we take for granted attachment is so normal, then we think of giving it up. We sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we assume if you give up attachment, you don't care. I know you're not saying this. I'm trying to analyze. It's not like that. So how would you be if you, in other words, you've got your beloved. He is your beloved. So the Buddhist view is you've got a karmic connection with that person. You fall in love. You get close together. You live in the same house. You produce your babies. You produce your meals. You live together. Nothing wrong. Marvelous. It's called human connection, you know. So what we're trying to do is lessen the fragile, needy, dissatisfied attachment energy and grow more confident and close and kind. So when you get less attached, you become more kind. When you get less attached, you become more understanding, more close, more loving. In fact, you'd have an even better relationship. You don't throw the person out. You just quit the neediness and the fears, and you'd have even better understanding between each other. Because if we're too fragile with our attachment, it causes us to not understand the person properly. It causes us to get upset. So that's the stuff that's in the way. So when you get less attachment, you still keep your beloved. Just because the people are equal doesn't mean you chuck out your beloved and bring in the stranger. No, you got your beloved, you keep your beloved, but you become more close, more loving, more forgiving. And then because you've got less attached, even when you do see the strangers, you won't go live with them. You might meet them for 5 minutes on the bus, but because you've got less neurotic, you'll be more loving towards the stranger for that 5 minutes, you know. I mean, what keeps us to live together from the Buddhist view is karmic connections. We've been together in past lives. We've created a strong history with each other, so we bump into each other again. I mean, look at mothers and children. You couldn't have a closer relationship than that. Oh my goodness. You've got really powerful history from the past. You know, that when I died in my past life and the karma ripened for me to be born to my mummy's particular womb with my daddy, so you run like a magnet towards that person. You get born in that person's body. That's incredible. They give you a body, you know, but it's your mind. You bring it with you. Well, then, you know, that means we've got a strong history to get with each other, a strong past history. And in a sense, a mother is repaying the kindness of the child from the past. And that's why when mothers have a difficult time with their children, they want to kill them. Some mothers don't like their children. That's because they've got a bad history together. So there's a very strong karmic connection. That's what keeps us going together. But then with that karmic connection, we then add the love and lessen the attachment. And that's what makes the relationship reasonable. So you don't just become boring and indifferent, you know, when you give up attachment. You become more kind, more loving, more brave, more compassionate, more empathetic to your loved one, but also to the strangers, and even you'll forgive the enemies more easily. So there's different things involved. The main one in the Buddhist view is your karmic connection. We just don't bump into people randomly. It's not a possibility. For Buddha, the law of karma is a natural law, you know. It's a natural law. And when we come together, we meet each other. That's Helen's point. Love is spacious and not I-based. They're good. Okay, people understand. Good. Isabella. Hi, I'm trying to get my head around all this. What's the topic of anger? As I'm very angry right. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry, Isabella. So listening to how we talk ourselves into what we feel like we deserve, what do you do with your anger when you have a landlord that's been... Okay, sweetheart, if you had a landlord, whoever it is here, okay, this is an interesting point, harassing you in a predator, nasty way when you stand up to him, and then he threatens to kick you out and raise your rent. Sweetheart, this is when it gets really difficult. And this is the point, sweetheart. This is a really important point, Isabella. When we've got more courage, which means less attachment, it's inappropriate. You don't just sit there and put up with this. This is absolutely outrageous. So this is where it becomes difficult. Sometimes you can't win, you know. Sometimes we know this. Life is not that easy. So if you've got a bad situation, a person's been gross with you, as you say, harassing you, and he's threatening you, I mean, you've got to really make some choices here. And if you can get your rights, fine. But often we can see life seems to be unfair. We can't get what we want every time. So Isabella, you've got to be really courageous. And if you've got any evidence, if you want to persevere with it and you do something with it to keep your rights. But in the end, if it's too much hassle, you know, it's crazy. I mean, you know your situation better than I do. I mean, I understand it's so difficult, darling. It's really difficult when sometimes it feels like there's nothing we can do. But the point is this, anger just makes it really worse. Anger adds on top. So if you can keep your sanity about you, if you can keep clear, know this is wrong, know the injustice is outrageous, if you can get your rights, but as soon as you get angry, you lose the plot, and that makes you crazy. So the point is, it's possible to see injustice and not to be angry. And if you don't be angry, not being angry doesn't mean you don't care. It means you see it more clearly. It is inappropriate what you're saying. This guy is inappropriate. How dare he be this way? So if you can change it, if you can stop him doing it, if you can get your rights, if you can go to somebody, you do that. But if you get angry, no one believes you, you go crazy, and you can't do much. So it's difficult, but it's possible, sweetheart. And it's for your benefit, not his. Anger's not some moralistic thing. Anger just makes our mind crazy. So yes, see his injustice. It's totally appropriate, totally inappropriate how he's behaving. So you see what you can do, but keep your wits about you. Keep your wits about you, darling. And you get what support you can. And try and stop him. Absolutely, no question. Sweetheart, I wish I had more time to talk, but we don't have time. Catherine, Tina. Are there any more questions then? We've got a few more minutes because I was late. No more questions. All right. Okay, not a question, Tina, but this year I've been trying to directly or indirectly do acts of kindness. Well done. I felt that aversion to that's really brave of you, Tina. Well done. My God. I've found that it has helped me dispel the aversion. This is absolutely right. Congratulations. But like at this interesting point, that's a really good example. But then in Isabella's place, she's got, in her case, she's got to act. Have kindness in your heart, Isabella, but you act and you get your rights and you stop this ridiculous man behaving like that. It's outrageous. It's a very good practice, Tina. Well done, darling. Excellent. Different topic, but can you help me understand the difference between the Buddhist mind? Oh, that's a very good point, Tyler. Absolutely, I can tell you the difference. Yes. What is the Western soul? Well, actually, that's a view that many religions have. That the Hindus call it a self or an Atman. The Greeks, I think, call it an essence. Christians and Muslims, I think, call it a soul. So, it's interesting, isn't it? We have body, mind, and then we have the third one. Well, Buddhism only uses the two. He says we have body and mind. So exactly your question is perfect, Tyler. So what Buddha means by mind is not what we mean by mind. I mean, it includes it. We mean by mind this thing up here, the brain, and we think, but Buddha's not discussing a brain. His discussion is including all the thoughts, the feelings, emotions, unconscious, subconscious, instinct, intuition, all the gross and subtle, all the positive, all the negative, all the components of our inner being. The Buddha would say this is what mind is. They also use the word consciousness. So the difference of Buddhism is, Tyler, that mind, this is what Buddha's talking about. He's not arguing we've got a brain. Of course we've got a brain, but he doesn't mean that. He's referring to the thoughts and feelings and emotions themselves, the actual cognitive process itself. And he would say it is not physical, number one. This is the difference for Buddha. Number two, it does not come from mummy and daddy, which is a big surprise to us. Mummy and daddy give us a brain, give us the genes, give us a DNA, no argument. But they don't give me love. They don't give me kindness. They don't give me anger. They don't give me jealousy. They don't give me my tendency to be good at football or music. Buddha would say, this is where reincarnation comes in. This is vast in the Buddhist literature. They describe it. That mind is not physical. And think of it like a continuity of mental moments. Excuse me. Think of it as a continuity of mental moments. This moment of my thoughts and feelings goes to the previous, comes back to the previous, goes to the previous, and you keep tracking it back, and you get right back to the first manifest conception, don't you? It's an unbroken chain of mental moments, all your thoughts and feelings and emotions, this river of mental moments. They call it in Buddhism a mental continuum. You'll get back to the first second of conception. So then what about before that? Well, before that, if you're a Christian, you go back to God, and God puts the soul there. If you are materialists, you believe you come from your mother and father. Well, Buddha, neither of these. Your body comes from mummy and daddy, yes, but your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your tendencies, your goodness, your badness, all of what's in your mind. This is Buddha's view. This comes from previous moments of itself, the very second before conception, and then the second before that, and you track it back in this unbroken chain of mental moments, and not more than a few weeks before that, this mind was in another body, and going before that and before that. This view has been around for 3,000 years. This is deeply described in great depth in the Buddhist literature. It's just brand new to us in the West, that's all. So it's fundamentally different from the Christian view in the sense that we all come back to God. And it's fundamentally different from the materialist view that only posits the physical. Buddha posits the physical, yeah, that comes from mummy and daddy. Buddha has no view of a creator. Buddha says we come back from previous moments of ourself. And this is where the law of karma comes in. As the Dalai Lama called it, it's like self-creation, that everything we think and do and say programs our own mind. So we come into this life, Tyler, Buddha would say, we come into this life programmed, fully programmed with our own tendencies from before, not mummy's and daddy's tendencies. I mean, psychology, neuroscience and psychology tracks us back to previous moments of mummy and daddy. So we all both go back to the past, but the difference is Buddha tracks us back to our own past, which is the concept of reincarnation. So that means we come into this life programmed with being good at music, being good at football, being good at loving, being good at anger, being good at jealousy, whatever it might be, our habits. This is one of the ways that karma ripens. Buddha would say every millisecond of what we think and do and say programs us, turns us into the person we become. So Dalai Lama says it's like self-creation. I mean, it sounds hilarious to us. This is the Buddha's view. And it's very extensive in all the literature it's dealt with. And this is a given in the Buddhist, the whole world view of Buddhism, And that's what implies practice, because Buddha's saying that I brought my own stuff with me and I can change it. I'm the boss, It's very empowering. It's not blaming, it's empowering. That's the difference. I hope that makes sense, sweetheart. It's a very good question, Tyler. Thank you. How do you apply this to those who have harmed you? Oh, darling, it's a big fat question, isn't it? It's a really difficult one. This is the problem. But we've got to go one step at a time. And that was my thought. That was what I was saying to, to the other person just before, Isabella. That if a person is abusing us, if a person is mean to us, I mean, this is our problem. We've got to first have some self-confidence and courage to realize this is not appropriate and get the hell out of the way if we can. But this is a tragedy. If I'm attached to my boyfriend, I think he's gorgeous and I'm sure he loves me, but he beats me every day. Or I'm sure he really loves me, punch in the nose again. I'm being plain stupid. I don't have the greatest highly developed bodhisattvas, the great kind of holy beings who've really gone past attachment and anger, they can forgive enemies easily because they don't have an ego left. But as for us, we can't cope with that. So the very beginning stages of practice, Isabella's got to stand her ground, be not angry, but be very clear and stop this ridiculous man from doing what he's doing. This is outrageous. So if a person is harming us, if we can get out of the way, fantastic. That's the brave thing to do. That means we have to have courage. And then when we're brave enough, as we develop our mind, the Buddhist view says, as we get less angry and less attached, we start to realize we're all in the same boat. Everybody's suffering. That's why we harm each other. Then we start to have some space. Then we can start to have compassion, even for those who've harmed us. But we've got to go one step at a time, We've got to go one step at a time. You can't just leap into that view. It's a very advanced view. You've got to have done a lot of inner practice first. So we've got to know where we're at. So if you're being abused by somebody, don't hang around. Get out of the way if you can. But if we start becoming fearful and angry and frustrated, we just go crazy, It's not easy. So there's different stages of practice. And of course, we've only got an hour and much time to talk about it. So you people, I'm very happy, thank you. When you're in the middle of aversion about something, this is Christy, when you're in the middle of aversion about something that you're attached to, what is the process of seeing that attachment in that moment? Sweethearts, this is the job. It's sort of like if you're describing what you'd be like if you were able to play tennis like Roger Federer. You've got to describe it, but it's going to take a while to get there, isn't it? You've got to describe what it's like at the end. You've got to describe the best way to play tennis. Here, we're describing what's possible. So when we are more advanced, it is possible to have very little attachment and fears and neediness and expectation, very little anger and jealousy and depression and anxiety. So how would you be if you didn't have that? How would you be if you were the good tennis player? You'd have lots of love and lots of clarity and lots of kindness and lots of confidence, and you'd be a very powerful person, a very amazing person, a very content person, and a very loving person. But it takes time to get there. You can't make it go overnight. You can't just start playing with like Roger Federer overnight. So in the midst of something, that's a bit my analogy before, Christy. If you're in the middle of that aversion with your boyfriend right now, or your baby, or your kid, which is what happens, in the midst of the drama, it's almost impossible to do much except damage control. That's a bit like asking me, I'm going 120 miles an hour on the freeway and I'm about to crash. My wheels are falling off. What can you do at that time? The best is damage control. The learning from it is that you go back to basics and start checking your wheels when they wobble. So you go back to basics and start looking at your mind before the anger becomes out of control. The learning is that, and to know that we can do that. So we don't wait till our wheels fall off. But that's what we tend to do in our culture. Do you understand, darling? It's not easy. But if we practice every day, we can anticipate these things, we can learn to navigate well and then keep our wheels under control and have good maintenance so that our mind never gets out of control. That is advanced, but it's possible. And I think it's important to know it is possible. But we need techniques, it's not magic. Best to communicate with those that are in fear. To help people who are in fear, love them. Don't give them lectures. Don't tell them what to do. Just hold them safe. If you're a mother and you know yourself when you were a child and you're freaking out about something as if the whole world is collapsing and you're full of fear, you run to mummy like a magnet and you cry, look up in her eyes, mummy, and she understands and all she says, look what she does. She doesn't give you a lecture. She doesn't become analytical. She just says, darling, it's all right. And she gives you a hug and you believe her. That's how you help people in fear. You love them. Don't try to help them. Don't try to change them. Love them. Make them feel secure, because fear makes us like as if we've got no ground, But you just love a person. You help them be stable. Love them. Let them know it's okay. That's the most powerful way to help people. And then if you can give talks and things after when they've calmed down, that's great. But just protect them. Keep them safe. Love them. Stephen asked, when can I come back to Australia? Well, if Australians let me in, But I think you won't at the moment. And you guys are so amazing because you've got about one new COVID case a day in the 25 million population of the whole country because you've been so strict. But as soon as they'll open the doors again, maybe as soon as Qantas flies again, God knows when, then I'll come. I promise. Meanwhile, I'm sitting in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where it's about 2 degrees or something Celsius. This is very helpful, you people, all talking there. Thank you so much. Jonathan also have a question. What's Jonathan's question? Doesn't say. Well, that's about an hour. That was what Paloma asked me to do. So you people, but I'll see you around. I've got quite a few. I'm sure Paloma's got lovely things on her program. And if you look up on Zoom, there's lots of things on. Certainly, if you want to see me again, you can look up on my website. My schedule is there. But I'm not trying to take away from Paloma. You support her centre, okay? So I wish I could see your faces. I can't see your faces, but at least I'm seeing your notes. So I know you're all there. And I'm sorry I was late, Paloma. That was my mistake, darling. Because I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was going to be Zoom. And then suddenly, 5 minutes before, I'm trying to work out how to get into Facebook because I never look. So I'm going to say goodbye now. I'll sing a little prayer, okay? Oh, wait a minute. Jonathan says, when do you know that you should switch out? Very good. A particular situation, that you're not stagnating. Good question, Jonathan. If we're mainly acting out of attachment, which is fear of change, fear of losing people, fear of what people think of us, we will never change. We'll sit there stagnating, absolutely. But if you're following more your courage, knowing which situations are good for you, knowing which situations help you grow as a human being, know which situations are right, you'll have the courage to leave when you realize it's over. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, in Buddhism, there's no view that just because you marry a person, you've got to be forever together. That's not like that. If the karma's finished, it's finished. But often what we hold back because we're afraid of what people think, afraid of the world, afraid of being insecure. No, if you have courage and you know it's the right thing, you will leave the person. But we often say, oh no, I don't want to hurt them. Mainly, I think we say that is because we're afraid they mightn't like us, you know. So it takes a lot of courage to do this, whether it's the job or the relationship. You don't leave it because you can't be bothered, or you don't leave it because it's too difficult. You just know it's time to go. You know, there's no benefit any longer in this relationship. But it's a tough one because the world criticizes. We get criticized, you know, oh, she's so selfish, blah, blah, blah. We've got to have the courage to follow our heart. So I'll finish with this thought. I think this is very powerful. I remember reading about some Australian nurse years ago who was living in England, and she was working with the dying, and she had a blog, and then she wrote a book, and her book was called The 5 Greatest Regrets of the Dying. And this blew my mind, actually. She said, the greatest regret was that I didn't follow what I knew was the right thing to do. I didn't follow my heart. Instead, I did what I thought other people expected of me. And that's what holds us back. So it's a really good point that you're mentioning, Jonathan. So every day, this is the trouble too, one thing to finish with this one. The Dalai Lama always says, always aspire to do what is most beneficial. And if you can, long-term better than short-term. So, of course, that for him means enlightenment, long-term. But then we say, but I don't know what's most beneficial. And you're right, we often don't know. But what we're doing is it's like this. I think it's like this. It's like you're walking on a road, and it's your road because it's your life. So what do? You're in a relationship, let's say, or a job, and you're really thinking this is not the right thing to do, but I don't know what to do. What you're saying is, I don't know where the turnoff is, isn't it? You're on road and you're moving forward. So what can you do? You can't stop. You can't go back. You can't just take any cute road because it looks nice. You'll get lost. You've got to just keep moving. You get up every morning. You're not sure what to do. You're really not sure. So you just think, I don't know what the right thing to do is, but may I do what's most beneficial? Well, what I think with this is, because every thought counts, that thought, that aspiration, may I do what's most beneficial, that will kind of nourish the karmic seeds that you've planted, which will cause you to eventually recognize the turn off when it's there. You go, oh, there it is, and you'll make the decision. That means you'll decide to stay in the relationship or you'll decide to go. But when you're ready, you will do it. You can't just stop and paralyze. You can't just chew it like a dog with a bone. You know, oh, I don't know what to do. Maybe I'll do this. You go crazy. You just keep doing what you're doing today. You get up, you take care of that house, that job, whatever it is you're doing, with the thought, may I do what's most beneficial? May I have the courage to make the right choice? And when the time comes, you will, and it'll mean even the tough choice, you will do it. but it'll prime your mind. It'll program your mind. May I do what's most beneficial? So what that means is beneficial for you in developing yourself and beneficial for others. That's it, As Buddha says, a bird needs two wings, wisdom and compassion. The wisdom wing is what is best, is helping you develop yourself, and the compassion wing on the basis of that is you helping others. That's it, So you dearest people, happy to see you all. Jang chob sem chog rinpoche, ma ke panam ke gyuchig, ke pa nyampa me pa yang, gong ne gong du pelba shog. All right, you dear people. Thank you so much, Paloma. Thank you, everybody. Much love to you. Maybe I'll see you all again. It's the first time I've done Facebook. I never knew how to do it before. Now I know. Thank you, sweethearts. I'll leave now. Much love. Bye-bye.